Hello, dear audience, I'm Alex. I never imagined that the farm, the peaceful haven I had hoped to build for Tuna and Henry, would one day turn into a suffocating battlefield of tension. When I heard that Tuna's former mother-in-law had suddenly appeared, my heart tightened. She didn't come merely out of casual concern. Every piercing glance, every word laced with hidden meaning, felt like a warning. Some scheme was quietly unfolding, threatening the lives of those I hold dear. As a CEO, I've grown used to fierce battles in the business world. But this time, I'm not just protecting work reputation or assets. I'm protecting the woman I love and the innocent child beside her. I face a choice: should I confront the storm head-on and expose the truth, or bide my time and strike with decisive force when the moment is right? Will the love between Tuna and me be strong enough to weather this storm? Or will her return become an unyielding wall, pushing us into a perilous spiral with no escape? Stay with me, because what lies ahead is not merely a clash of wills, but a journey to prove that love and trust can be stronger than even the most ruthless of schemes. That day, the sky was unusually gloomy. Heavy, dark clouds blanketed the heavens like an omen of an approaching storm. I didn't know then that at that very moment, in a small house on the outskirts of town, Tuna's former mother-in-law was sitting silently, yet brimming with schemes. Later, I learned that her sharp, piercing eyes seemed to gaze through the void, carrying a hatred that time itself could never erode. To her, Tuna would forever be a thorn in her side. And then yesterday, that fateful day, she discovered where we lived. Worse still, she saw me with her own eyes, holding Henry in my arms, smiling like a true father. I cannot imagine what turmoil raged within her in that moment. To her, Henry was not just a child, but the last drop of blood left from her family line, a source of pride she would never allow an outsider to touch. And to her eyes, I was nothing but a stranger occupying the sacred place of her son, the one now paying the price behind bars. The thought sent shivers down my spine. Because I knew well once, she considered Henry her everything. There would be no boundary she wouldn't dare to cross. Her love and hatred had merged into a terrifying resolve. I could picture her hand gripping the armrest so tightly that her nails left long marks, while a single thought echoed in her mind: I must take Henry back. At any cost. I could almost see the sinister smile flicker across her aged face. She had made her plan. She would come to the farm, the place Tuna, and I called home not for a simple visit, but to slowly reclaim Henry. And when that time came, no one, not even Tuna or I, could stop her. Outside, the storm was rising, but the true tempest was not in the sky. It was in the heart of a woman who had resolved to begin a war. A war not only to take back her grandson, but to feed the hatred that had never burned out. As Alex, I knew I had to be ready, because the moment she set foot on our farm would be the moment our peaceful life stood on the verge of shattering. And only one thought remained in my mind: at all costs, I must protect Tuna and Henry. That afternoon, as I drove closer to the farm, the sky was covered in a murky gray, so heavy it stirred unease in my chest. The moment I stepped through the gate, the sound of the whistling wind and the creaking wooden door turned the once peaceful atmosphere into something oppressive. And then I saw her Tuna's former mother-in-law standing in the yard. That familiar figure, with sharp eyes and a cold face, felt like a haunting from the past suddenly returning. Her voice rang out firm and commanding, "Tuna." I saw Tuna flinch inside the house, where she was lulling Henry to sleep. When she stepped out, her face froze for a moment in shock. I stayed silent, not interfering, only watching every word and every gesture. Why are you here? What do you want? Na asked, her voice trembling. What surprised me was that her tone was no longer harsh, as it had been in the past, but strangely gentle. Calm down. Let's sit and talk for a while, can we? Out of courtesy, Tuna invited her inside. They sat facing each other, only a short distance apart. But the tension between them was so thick, I could feel it myself. Tuna's eyes were full of caution, and her hand clenched slightly. Then the woman suddenly spoke. "Tuna, I'm sorry. What happened in the past, it was my fault. Today, I only want to see my grandchild. Please." I saw Tuna's shoulders tremble. Those words didn't move her. Instead, they ignited the long-buried anger inside her. Your grandchild. There is no grandchild of yours here. When I was pregnant, you and your son cruelly cast me out. Why now? Why have you come? For what reason? The air grew heavier. Yet she remained calm, her eyes unwavering. Back then, I was wrong. But Henry is still blood of the family. I only ask for one chance to see him. Tuna fell silent for a long moment. Her eyes welled with emotions as painful memories surged back. At last, she let out a weary sigh and said, "Fine, but you must not touch Henry. You can only look." A strange glimmer flashed in the woman's eyes. She nodded. "All right. Only to look." I followed them into the room. Henry lay fast asleep in his cradle, his innocent face softening my heart. But her eyes were different, bright trembling, as though she wanted to snatch him up at any moment. Instantly, Tuna stepped in front of her, her voice firm. "You may look, but no one has the right to touch my son." At that moment, she stopped. Her gaze clung to Henry for a long time. Then the corner of her lips curved into a sinister smile. I understood at once in her heart. An ill intention had already taken root. When Tuna coldly asked her to leave, she rose. But before stepping out, her eyes stubbornly lingered on Henry one last time, as if to etch his image deep into her mind. And I could read the unspoken words in that gaze. That boy is my grandson. He belongs to me, by any means necessary. Her figure disappeared beyond the gate, but inside me a violent unease surged. I knew this visit was only the beginning. A hidden storm was brewing, and CeoAlex would have to be ready to face it. Because I would never allow anyone to take Henry away from me and Tuna. When I drove up to the farm gate, night had already fallen. As soon as the engine went silent, I hurried out of the car and immediately saw Tuna standing on the porch, her face pale. Her eyes were filled with fear, her hands trembling slightly. My heart sank. Something had happened. "Tuna, what's wrong? You don't look well at all." I asked, my voice betraying my worry. She tried to hold herself together, but her voice still trembled. "Alex, she was here. Huang An's mother. She came all the way to the farm." I froze. A surge of anger flared in my chest, my brows furrowing sharply. She dared to come here. Tuna nodded, then recounted everything. The way the woman stepped into the yard, her piercing gaze, the unexpected apology, and her desperate plea to see Henry. But when Tuna described the moment the woman nearly tried to take our child into her arms, her voice broke. If I hadn't stopped her in time, Henry might have already been in her hands. Alex, you can't imagine her eyes. They were chilling to the bone. I know for certain she didn't come just to look at him. She came to take Henry away from us. For a moment, I stood in silence. Inside me, anger and resolve surged like a storm. I walked over to the cradle and looked at the baby sleeping peacefully, his little face so innocent and rosy. Henry, my son. I turned back to Tuna, my voice firm and unwavering. Don't worry. I won't let anyone, not even her, lay a hand on Henry. He is our son. You've suffered enough, Tuna. From now on, I'll be the one to protect you and our child. Tears welled in Tuna's eyes. In her gaze, I saw both trust and lingering fear. She whispered, Alex, I'm scared. She won't stop. In her eyes, I saw a scheme. I'm certain she'll be back. I placed my hand on her shoulder, my voice low and heavy, like a vow. Then let her come back. I'll face her. I want to see what more she can do beyond lies and schemes. Outside, darkness spread across the land. The wind howled through the window frame, heralding an oncoming storm. Inside the small house, Tuna and I quietly watched Henry, sleeping soundly. But we both knew, from this moment on, our peace had been shattered. And the battle to protect Henry, the innocent child, had just begun.
Không khí như nắng lạ, chỉ cần sự chờ đợi và những cảm xúc đan xen nhau. Alex có đủ can đảm để thổ lộ tình cảm của mình và một lời cầu hôn với Tuna. Đây là câu hỏi mà không chỉ anh mà cả những người xung quanh đều mong câu trả lời. Nếu là bạn có dám tỏ tình với người mình yêu không? Bạn nghĩ Alex sẽ làm gì trong tình huống này? Hãy để lại ý kiến của bạn dưới phần bình luận để cùng chia sẻ với chúng tôi, và đừng quên đăng ký kênh và bật chuông thông báo để theo dõi những tình tiết hấp dẫn tiếp theo trong câu chuyện Alex và Tuna. Liệu cô ấy có chấp nhận lời cầu hôn của Alex không? Chúng ta cùng chờ đón câu trả lời trong những tập tiếp theo.